provides his thoughts on Summer Game Fest, and we go through our bingo boards. A lot of Final Fantasy 7's, and The Quarry and High on Life were supposed to be on Stadia. Extra, hear all about it!
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast where we talk about games. I don't really have any fancy thing to say this week. I'm the Dean of Games, the Dean Slater if you're on Twitter or Twitch, and joining me is twitch.tv/LMJ the Hitman.
Hello, I'm back, and computer problems are solved.
Yay!
Applaud.
I can now have Landen carry me.
I'll take a bow. I'm taking a bow.
This is Extra, your weekly gaming news podcast covering the news leading up to Sunday, June 19th, 2022. And if you like us, you can go to patreon.com/thebriefingroom. Let's get to some news. Alright, we're going to start off with your thoughts, and I might share my thoughts even though I've already shared them with the audience, but your thoughts on the showcases, your favorite games that you saw from the showcases, and we'll look at our bingo boards.
For sure. Please bounce off of anything that I have to say, because I'd love to just hear your thoughts on my thoughts.
Yeah.
So let's does this include PlayStation? I mean, that's kind of Summer Games Fest as well. So you want to get my thoughts on PlayStations as well?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
All right. Well, PlayStation's was fairly good. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the games they announced, but I feel like it was a fairly good conference for third-party stuff. I'm not a fan of Final Fantasy 16, but it looks like it's changing up the way, or Final Fantasy. I'm not too big of a fan of Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy 16 does look like to change up the gameplay quite a bit. Has my interest. Stray, I love cats. I will be playing that game. Stray is looking good.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, PlayStation's conference, like I'm not sold on the PSVR 2. I'm not really sold on the VR games that they showed off. So honestly, that showcase wasn't for me, but it seemed pretty solid for everybody else out there, but not me. I'd much rather have a PlayStation first party announcements rather than what they did. But to each their own. So let's go on to the bigger stuff. Summer Games Fest. I'll tell you what, this bingo board thing we did, I failed miserably. And from what you told me, I think we're both in the same boat.
Yeah, so we had Fall Guys as our free space. That came to fruition. And then I had Gotham Knights, and that was it.
So I'm looking over my notes here, and I'm looking at these games that I predicted. I had some big dreams, man. I had some real big dreams. My first one was Wonder Woman. No, that did not happen. I really did think it was going to happen, but it did not. Yeah. I had God of War, which there was some PlayStation presence there. So I did get one thing on my bingo board. I'm jumping forward a little bit, but the Last of Us remake did happen, and that is happening. So that's kind of. I mean, they also gave us some news on future projects by Naughty Dog as well. They got some more announcements later down the road, more like the end of this year, early next year. I'm excited about that. It's great to hear that they're actually acknowledging that they're working on multiple games at the same time. And Last of Us 1 looks great. I've played it recently. I've got the Platinum. Probably won't play the Last of Us 1 remake until it's on sale.
Yeah.
I had Hogwarts on there. That didn't happen. Shovel Knights 2. That didn't happen. I had Death Stranding 2 because, there was rumors of Kojima, which kind of happened, just not at the summer, not the regular Summer Games Fest. It was at the Xbox Game Fest. More on that later. Yeah. I had Armored Core. That didn't happen. I had Elden Ring DLC. That didn't happen. And I had Titanfall 3. And that didn't happen. My bingo board sucks, dude. As far as Summer Games Fest on this list, I just have Last of Us Remake. That's it. That's it. Yeah. So that didn't go over so well. But it was a little boring. There's a lot of stuff I did not care about at the Summer Games Fest. I'm glad that Jeff Keighley made it to where there's still a conference that happens in the middle of the year, and rather than just being barren and no E3 presence or video game presence at all. So I am happy that something still exists. That being said, if it was an out of 5, I'd give it like a 2 or 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Moving forward, what'd you think? Actually, what'd you think of it?
So, Summer Game Fest, I think the pacing was really bad. Like, Jeff Keighley's always had a little bit of issue with pacing, but I think this was his worst pacing performance. It was 2 hours long, and if you put Call of Duty was 12 minutes.
That was a waste of time.
And and Last of Us was 17 minutes. So you put those two together. Just those two sections were a quarter of the show. That's way too slow.
People that are interested in Call of Duty, they're interested in the bombastic, action-packed campaign or the multiplayer, and they didn't show either of that. They showed a slow-moving campaign mission, and that's not what's getting people riled up for Call of Duty. I am a Call of Duty fan, and I buy it every year. I get wrapped up every year, and as a Call of Duty fan, I didn't care about what they showed me in that, at all. The only thing I would have to say is there's some subliminal messaging showing a multiplayer map in there from Modern Warfare 2 called High Rise. I'm pretty excited about that. But other than that, that was some boring shit. That was some really boring shit. And the other one, what was the other one? The Modern Warfare. Oh yeah, Last of Us. I'm a fan of Last of Us. I'm a huge fan of Naughty Dog. Last of Us series is one of my favorites. But I've already played Last of Us 1 multiple times. Like I said earlier, I have the platinum to Last of Us 1. It looks gorgeous. But this game is very much meant for the people who have not played it, who are going to go watch that TV show when it comes out early next year and then be like, oh, I'd like to play the game to this. Well, look at this. There's a PS5 version of that game or that TV show that I just watched. So, boom. So, the two biggest things that, of that showcase were the were boring. So, the two highlights are even that highlight worthy. Yeah.
As far as my bingo board, the stuff that I didn't that I didn't get was Sonic Frontiers, which did surprise me that it was not there.
I agree. I thought it would have more time for sure.
BioShock 4, Dragon Ball The Breakers, which that game's supposed to be coming out this year, so I'm surprised there's not a marketing push right now.
Some sort of presence for it, yeah.
Yeah. Suicide Squad, which I remember saying I wasn't 100% sure they'd show Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, so I was kind of right in that. Half points or pat on the back or something. Final Fantasy IX Remake, Walking Dead Last Mile, and Haunted Chocolatier. So, yeah. Wah, wah.
Wah wah to both of us, so you're not alone, man. It's not like somebody stomped on the other guy. We are both in, both didn't do so well. So, maybe next year for us, all right?
Yeah, so do you want to go through are you just going to go through the major ones, or are you going to go through some of the smaller showcases?
I'd like to move on to the Xbox one if that's cool.
Oh, that's fine.
All right, so the Xbox stuff, which was a pretty good conference, I'm not gonna lie. There wasn't everything that they showed off wasn't necessarily for me, but even though it wasn't for me, it was still pretty hype. The things that they announced, not necessarily hitting things that I'm gonna use or but the whole Riot Games stuff is pretty awesome. Be able to get every single champion in Valorant and their battle chess game or League of Legends or even Rifts. I think it's called Rifts. Whatever their iPad, Android. League of Legends game. That's awesome. Having Games Pass gives you every single champion. That saves you so much money and so much time. That was awesome. The conference itself, I'd say I'd give it a 4 out of 5 probably. But as far as games that I had predicted, I had Fable. That didn't happen. And you know what? If we would have known prior to the release of this conference, they just before the conference, they're hey, this is only going to be 12 months. Looking forward to the next 12 months of what Xbox is going to have. And if I would have known that, some of these games probably wouldn't have been on my list. Yeah. But that being said, I had Fable. That didn't happen. I had Perfect Dark. That didn't happen. I got Forza Motorsports, so that did happen. I got that one. When there was a part where they were talking about having more of a Japanese presence, and I was like, oh, here it comes, Yakuza Like a Dragon sequel. Nope, it was the Persona games, 3, 4, and 5, which is so awesome. Those games deserve to be on all the platforms. That's great that Xbox is actually getting, Japanese games that people actually care about. But I did not get Yakuza Like a Dragon. Next game I talked about having a Game Pass streaming stick and having that be there. It was not. That was actually a surprise to me because I know it's on the horizon. And, I look at this next one, and I had Gears 6 with a crossed fingers emoji next to it. I said cinematic at the least, and no, didn't get any Gears of War presents, not even that rumored Marcus Phoenix collection, which tells me, quick little side note, it tells me that next year we'll get a Gears of War announcement, and it'll most likely be the Gears of War Marcus Phoenix collection to tide us over to a 2024 Gears of War 6 release. That's my prediction.
All right.
Which is sad because I want Gears of War sooner than that, but I really do. I saw they had the Diablo 4 had the announcement of their last character, the Witch Doctor or Necromancer. That's what it is. Necromancer. Yeah. And Rod Ferguson was there. And Rod Ferguson is the lead at the Coalition for the Gears of War studio, who makes all the Gears of War games. He's been there since the beginning. Him and Cliff Bleszinski were best buds growing up, and he's been a part of Gears of War franchise. He's a big part of the Coalition. And I saw him working as a lead manager at Diablo or for Blizzard. And that just tells me, one, that Microsoft's already getting their fingers in with their Xbox people over into the Activision part, one. Two, that Rod Ferguson is over there tells me that he's not got all eyes on Gears of War 6, telling me that that's also a little bit further down the road, making my potential prediction that, we get the Marcus Phoenix collection into next year and Gears 6 the year after. Yeah. Sad, but most likely true. Moving forward, I think we said Starfield gameplay was our free space, so, it was there. It looks overwhelming. I'm obviously going to play the game, but it kind of gave me that there might be too much there vibe. And the game's going to release, potentially first half of next year, and there's a lot of games coming out. And you're going to release a game that's going to take, 500 to 1,000 hours to, of your life, your video game life. There's no time for the other games. So that scares me a little bit. It looked all right. The gunplay looked better than what they've had in the past. It's an upgrade, but I'm still feel like it could have been better. Mm-hmm. I also said that Wolfenstein 3 was going to be there, and I really thought Wolfenstein 3 was going to at least get a title screen. Even with the 12-month window, I thought Wolfenstein 3 was going to get at least a title of card or something. And then I said Redfall gameplay was going to be there in the release. So I got 2 on the Xbox One as well. And Redfall looks pretty cool. I'm interested in that. I like the idea of the whole Borderlands, Arcane makes pretty unique games. What is it? The Dishonored Borderlands, Deathloop style game. That seems or Left 4 Dead. That's what I'm thinking of. Left 4 Dead style game. It looks cool. It's not going to be something I play on day one. I'm going to wait for everybody else to say what they think about it, but it does have my eye. And that's the end of my list. But like I said, it was a good conference. Just not everything there was for me. But overall, their consistent good announcements and hype was there more than any of the other conferences, I feel like. And they had an extended conference for Xbox as well, where Todd Howard got to talk a bit more about the future of Bethesda and Xbox. And he even mentioned the word Fallout 5. Yeah. Surprisingly enough. But that's pretty cool. But that's, we're not going to get Fallout 5 and probably 20, 30 or later.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
I have, I agree with you.
There was no Indiana Jones either. I just wanted to say that real quick. There was no Indiana Jones. I couldn't believe that.
I agree with you that I had more hype for the games that they showed off.
At Xbox?
At Xbox. People have been talking about a partnership with Ubisoft, and as much as I prefer Ubisoft games over Riot games, I think the Riot game announcement was so much more hype.
Yeah, so awesome. So awesome.
Even though I won't be playing any of the Riot games.
Same, dude. I was like, oh, when they were doing that, but here I am. I'm not even a League of Legends player. I mean, I have it downloaded. I'm just not a consistent League of Legends player.
Yeah.
I barely even dabble, but, you know, that announcement's still pretty dope.
Again, I think there was a little bit of pacing issue, especially with the Starfield stuff. I think it was a weird decision for them to have gameplay intercut with Todd Howard talking. They should have just had one, even if it was like a 2.5 minute gameplay trailer, just show off the gameplay in just one fell swoop. You don't need to have these intercut sections of Todd Howard being like, oh, well, you can do this. You're on this planet doing this, and then show the gameplay of that. Just, here's Starfield. Here's what you can do. Let's see the gameplay. Like, I think that would have flowed a lot better and would have been a better topper to the conference. I
also feel like they should have started off with it as well. Like, we already knew it was going to be there. Why not just start with it?
I will say, when they were talking about their ship customization, I was like, there is a ship from a mech anime. If I can make it, I will. And as soon as I was saying that to myself, it showed a model that looks close enough to it that I'm like, I just need to get the colors right. That's it. I can make that ship. But yeah, as far as my bingo board, I got Starfield and the Kojima Project. Those were the two I got. The, what is it, 7 that I didn't get was, I thought we'd have Avowed gameplay. I
can't believe that wasn't there.
I also had Gears 6 on my board.
Sad day for the Gears fans.
Haunted Chocolatier, because I can't help but meme. The Quake I had, which I know was kind of a shot in the dark, but there's been rumors that there is a Quake reboot similar to the Wolfenstein reboot coming out.
I can't believe that wasn't there either.
And then the one that really surprised me wasn't there is Deathloop coming to Xbox, because I thought it was a 1-year exclusivity, so that's coming up.
That wasn't there. Yeah, why would you not make that quick announcement to be like, hey, by the way, like, you know, October, November, that's when it released in September, right, of the following year of the release for PlayStation. Where is that? Yeah, that should be there.
Yeah, so
Sony's so weird with their exclusive deals. They keep, like, even Final Fantasy VII's not even announced for Xbox yet. That's not. Yeah. That's supposed to be multi-platform.
Yeah, so that was a little weird. We'll get to it in the stories, but one of the Final Fantasy games that they announced at this Final Fantasy thing is coming to Xbox, but everything else is not, and it's like, what a weird decision. Anyway, so Outer Worlds 2, I thought we would get a cinematic for that. And then there's still this mysterious Project Midnight that we know what the project name is, but we don't know what the game is. There was nothing on that, so as far we talked about what we thought of the conferences. Oh yeah, Sony. I never talked about what I thought of Sony. I was not a big fan of the stuff Sony showed either, but I think that they by far had the best pacing, and even though I personally wasn't interested in the games, I think they might have had bigger games as far as the general public than Xbox did.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably number one, with Xbox being number two. And Summer Game Fest, despite being so big, is below all these smaller shows.
Yeah. So true.
What were some of your favorite games shown? Just in general, it doesn't even have to be the big conferences. What was your favorite games?
I think what stuck out the most, like, I mean, Redfall was pretty cool. Like I said, it's not necessarily my type of game, but is it weird if I say Stray? Because I'm not trying to make myself sound like a cat super lover, but I mean, it seems so cool. Like the basic shit that cats do turn into puzzle-like gameplay seems really fucking cool to me, and I like the whole super cyberpunk future with a living cat, you know, or non-robot cat. We're living amongst all these robots world. Sounds pretty cool. So I am going to pick that game up day one. But that game stuck out to me quite a bit. Is there any games that stuck out to you?
I'm not a cat person, and I definitely am interested in Stray. So I don't think that's weird at all. So as far as Sony, I would go with Stray being the thing I'm most excited about. Summer Game Fest. I wrote down a few games that I'm interested in, but I would say Routine would be and I'm not even a horror guy, but Routine seems like something that I'd be interested in. It was that one that was like 1960s sci-fi horror, almost psychological horror, it almost looked like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in seeing more about that.
Yeah. Callisto Protocol. I'm all about
Protocol.
that.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. That was at the PlayStation one, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. They were like showing Callisto Protocol at the PlayStation thing, like, check this game out. I'm like, yeah, we kind of just saw that already, so it's not really too big of a surprise that you got Callisto Protocol. But, you know, to each their own. The dude that's playing the main character in Callisto Protocol, it's the dude from Transformers and Vegas, the TV show. Josh Duhamel, that's his name.
Yeah.
Josh Duhamel. He is phenomenal. He was in Call of Duty's campaign, World War II. He's been in a couple other story games and video games. He does a great job. I think he's going to be a great addition to Callisto Protocol. And the fact that Callisto Protocol is coming out 3 weeks prior to Dead Space is what a perfectly placed smack to the face to Dead Space.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's literally the people who made Dead Space back in the day. All these people just randomly, boom, lost their job. EA said, your studio doesn't even exist anymore. Goodbye. And they try to gather everybody back up. And they're like, we still want to make these games. So they did. They made Callisto Protocol. And while that's happening, without EA knowing, EA's like, well, people really want Dead Space. Maybe we shouldn't have got rid of that studio. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll get another studio and we'll just do a remake of Dead Space 1. Which, you know what? I'm hyped about. I love Dead Space. I want to play the Dead Space 1 remake. It's got a lot of new stuff added in there. Yeah. I am excited for Dead Space. Let that be known. But I'm telling you, the original people who made Dead Space, Callisto Protocol, is going to smack Dead Space in the face. I cannot wait. The competition is real, but I think it's obvious which one's going to be the better game. And, Dead Space is only coming to next-gen consoles, and Callisto Protocol is for both.
Yeah.
That being said, my bet is on Callisto Protocol being the better overall scored game and the more fan-liked game as well. I will be buying both. I will be buying both.
I will say there are some streamers I watch that are big Dead Space fans, and Dead Space actually reached out to them and some other streamers that are big Dead Space fans. And so they're getting feedback from actual fans of the series with help for this remake. So they're actually getting fan input, which I think is really cool. And something not usually an EA kind of move.
Right.
So I will say that's a pretty cool thing for Dead Space. But yeah, Callisto Protocol, some of those death animations too. It's
rough. Yeah, after the very, very end of that showing for Callisto Protocol, Josh Duhamel's face, or his character's face, gets just rammed into a grinder, and you just see it just blood squirt out. And it cuts away, and it goes back to Jeff Keighley, and Jeff Keighley's literally like staring like, what the fuck? Yeah. And he's like, so that just happened, and he looked literally shook. And I thought that was hilarious. That was hilarious. He's like, what did I just show at my conference? What did I just allow at my conference?
So, let's see. Day of the Devs, if I were to pick a favorite game from Day of the Devs, it's Escape Academy.
Okay.
That one looks really cool. There was another one I watched. What was the other one I watched? Oh, Devolver Digital, Cult of the Lambs.
Devolver Digital is phenomenal. They make such great games.
Yeah. So Cult of the Lambs is something I'm interested in. It's basically a sim, and you're building this cult. You're this sheep building a cult, trying to get people into this cult. It's fascinating. And then Xbox. Let's see what was trying to. We're gonna be talking about it in the story, so it's fresh on my mind. I loved how High on Life looked, and even though I can't go, spend too much time with Justin Roiland's humor, I'm not one of the people that are like, he's not funny at all.
Oh, I forgot that the game where all the guns have personalities and they talk.
Yeah.
That game looks okay. So I want to say, first of all, it looks good. I want to play that game. It's going to be on Games Pass, so that's great. I don't have to drop $60, $70 to play it.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's going to be like crude in the best way, gross in the best way, hilarious in the best way, and just batshit crazy in the best way.
Yeah.
It looks disturbing. It looks very, very disturbing. All your guns have their own personalities, and they talk to you, and they all do off-the-wall, wonky shit. They all do real weird shit.
My favorite part of the trailer was when he's like, "My name's Knifey. Stab, 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 stab."
Yes. There's like one of the guns like grows like babies out of the top of it, and it's like, don't worry, I'll grow more babies. Don't worry that they die. Like, Jesus Christ. There's gonna be some real morbid, fucked up humor, and I'm for it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our thoughts and our bingo boards.
Overall, I want to say that like I said in the beginning, thank you, Jeff Keighley, and not that you're ever gonna hear me say this, but thank you, Jeff Keighley. My thoughts and prayers are out to you, and thankful for you being able to make this Summer Games Fest even happen in the first place, because if you didn't, PlayStation probably wouldn't have said a goddamn thing until August, September of this year. So much appreciated, and I did like being able to sit down and just binge watch a shitload of reveals and knowledge and news about video games, and I'm glad I still got that experience this year.
Yeah. So, let us move on to news. Actual news, not just our thoughts on stuff that happened 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah.
Final Fantasy. I have it listed as Final Fantasy 777. So, Final Fantasy had their 25th anniversary event, I will say. And in that event, they announced that Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade is out. As of we're recording it, it came out today on Steam. So this will be 3-day old by the time that you guys hear it, and you guys probably will have beaten it because, gamers. It is compatible with the Steam Deck, which I am more and more interested in, but
yeah, I know, me too.
Be waiting longer and longer for.
Yeah, but let everybody else get all the kinks out of the way and all the problems with it. And by the time we get one, which I'm sure we will, it'll be maybe a newer model, or all the bugs will be fixed.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then they also announced Final Fantasy. They showed off some merch, but that's not game related, so we won't say anything about that. Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 will be coming to PlayStation allegedly next year. And then in a social media post, director Naoki Hamaguchi, I apologize if I said your name wrong, put out a statement, and I'm gonna ignore most of it and just go with this exact part of the statement. The Final Fantasy VII Remake project will be a 3-part trilogy, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is much more than an installment in the series. And then he goes on to talk about how much passion they put into it. But, so, it's going to be a trilogy. I remember, 2019, 2020, there was talk that it was going to be like 5 parts, and it's like, good lord, the Final Fantasy remakes aren't going to be done until 2050. But trilogy does seem much more doable. And then they announced Crisis Core is coming to consoles and PC. It was originally on
PSP. It was on PSP.
Yeah,
I have it right behind me.
It was on PSP.
Which is it's actually very hard to play that game because it's not digital anywhere, and the only real way to play it is, I believe, you could digitally buy it on a PSP Go. I think they had it on PS Vita's Marketplace, which doesn't exist anymore, and physically on the PSP. And that's hard to do. So if you're trying to play Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, good luck. You better start hitting up some yard sales and hoping to find one.
Yeah.
The original, that is.
Yeah. It will use the same graphic engine as Final Fantasy Remake.
Good. It's a good engine.
And it allegedly is coming out this winter. So,
the Crisis Core is this winter?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. It's basically like, hey, I know you've been waiting for some news about Final Fantasy Part 2. Here's this little tidbit to just tide you over.
Yeah.
They're good about doing stuff like that. They've done that with a couple of different titles.
Yeah. So, I've played the original Final Fantasy VII. I'm not a super fan of the Final Fantasy franchise in general. I might end up picking up...
I know that fan base goes hard, though. That fan base go real hard.
They go real hard. I might pick up Intergrade on Steam. I may not. It really depends on if I feel froggy enough to do that.
I played 7 on 4, and then they gave us Final Fantasy 7 for free on PlayStation Plus. And then about a couple months ago, they made it. They gave us Final Fantasy 7 Intergrade upgrade path from the free version they gave us for free. So basically, you can upgrade your free version of the PS4 version to the PS5 version with the DLC for free if you collected it on your PlayStation Plus.
Nice.
That is pretty cool. I'm like 80% done with that game, and I told myself I'd come back. I told myself I'd finish it. I did like it. It's better than any of the other Final Fantasy games I played. And for you, the people out there that do play Final Fantasy and liked Final Fantasy 15, I didn't even make it to the boat. And for people who did play Final Fantasy 15, you know that that's not very far. It is hard for me to get into Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
Very hard.
So
they don't make it easy.
What I think is interesting is that Final Fantasy VII Remake came out to Epic Games Store, but Intergrade is coming to Steam Store. But there is still no... I doubt there will be a Switch version, but there's still no Switch version or Xbox version whatsoever.
There's the Xbox version. Like, how extensive was this exclusive deal that Sony paid for? Like, Sony, I feel like the deal was over, and I think they might have just they're gonna keep paying them because. I think Sony believes showing off Final Fantasy VII as an exclusive, at least to the people who are uninformed, as a pure exclusive, looks good. I would say, like, for the people that are the hardcore fans, like, showing Final Fantasy VII as this big title, as a renowned title, people who adore Final Fantasy VII Remake, people who didn't like Final Fantasy played Final Fantasy VII Remake for the first time and liked it. So I think they want to keep that image that it's a PlayStation thing.
Yeah, my original, what I was telling myself at least, is that it was a 1-year exclusivity, but right about that 1-year mark is when they came out with Intergrade. And then Intergrade was another 1-year exclusive, but now Intergrade's been out for a couple of years, right? It's been more than a year since Intergrade came out.
Intergrade has been out for, so it's 2020. We're in the middle of 2022. Early 2020 is when Final Fantasy VII came out, and I want to say it was the beginning of the year after the release the Intergrade really had came out. So it's been out for like a year and a half.
Yeah. So that certainly was not the thing that I was thinking it was. And then Final Fantasy Remake Part 2, they confirmed is coming to PlayStation 5. So they're not even talking PC, let alone other consoles for Part 2.
Did they mention PS4 for the Part 2 part? Or Part 2 part? For the Part 2 release?
It did not say play. The article I read specifically said PlayStation 5.
How much you want to bet that I'll be able to have on my shelf Final Fantasy VII on PS4, Final Fantasy VII on PS5, and Final Fantasy Part 3 on my PS6. I'm calling it now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm also calling that game ain't coming out at the end of next year. Part 2 ain't coming out at the end of next year. They say it is. They announced Final Fantasy VII in 2013 leading up to the PS4's release to be like, look what the PS4 is going to have. And everybody's like, oh, shit, Final Fantasy VII Remake looks so good. I got to get a PS4. And then people waited 7 years after that announcement for it to finally come out on the PS4. So I'm telling you right now, Final Fantasy VII Part 2, getting delayed. Betcha on it. Betcha.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's something. And then Crisis Core I never even heard of. I will say I never even heard of Crisis Core until, like, right before this announcement when there was a leak that there could be a Crisis Core remake or something coming out, and everyone's like, oh, Crisis Core! It's like, I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Barely even know Final Fantasy VII, let alone what the fuck Crisis Core is. I know there's also a movie, and like, there's so much lore to Final Fantasy VII that I don't understand. And this remake is taking different routes than the original did. So there's like a whole different lore and story to this new one than there is in the old one.
Yeah.
There's Square Enix don't give a shit. They'll release whatever and it not make any sense. Case in point, what is that? Chaos. Gotta kill Chaos. The Final Fantasy Origins. Yeah. Final Fantasy VII Origins is the perfect example that Square Enix will release whatever the fuck. People will eat it up.
Yeah, I just... It's almost, at this point, Final Fantasy VII, just by itself, is almost what people joke and meme about with Kingdom Hearts, where, you know...
Yes, dude, it's getting real close. It's getting real close, because the Kingdom Hearts games are on another level complex and complicated, and in no way can you just pick up Kingdom Hearts 3 and just like, well, this will be my first one and I'll try it out. No way, dude. No. There's no way.
Yeah, they as soon as they give me a title where I have to do math like Kingdom Hearts did, I'm out. You remember what was it? 358 over 7 days or something like that. It's like,
yeah,
you're making me do math. Don't make me do math.
There's like phone games and PSP games and Vita games and mobile games and console DLC games that all have to tie into one whole story. There'll be things that they'll be explaining. They're like, if you didn't play the fucking mobile game, you're not going to know what the fuck Goofy's saying. You're not going to know what he's talking about. I mean, I would also put it on the comparison to Metal Gear Solid. The Metal Gear Solid story is also very complex and hard to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, but at least with Metal Gear Solid, they don't have a bunch of side games that tie into the main game.
True, there's just the core main games. You're right,
Yeah.
you're right.
We should probably move on now.
Yeah, you're right. If we had Final Fantasy fans watching us, they're not watching anymore. These fucking scrubs don't know shit about my favorite game. And they're right, and they are right, yeah.
So, allegedly, the Quarry and High on Life, which we were just talking about, were planned to be on Google Stadia. This comes from unnamed sources, but Google had announced an exclusive title with Supermassive in July of 2020. Google massively downsized its internal games business and left these games publisherless. And for reference, Quarry has released a week ago and has a 78 Metacritic. And High on Life was announced at Xbox's showcase. We were just talking about that. And is set to release in October. What do you think this could have done for Stadia had they kept
Nothing.
it on?
Absolutely nothing. I always, like, until it's a news story, I'm like, oh yeah, Stadia was a thing. And I was all on board when Stadia first got announced. I was like, man, this is going to be the future streaming games. And it is, but for Xbox, not for Stadia. Yeah. This future is streaming, but on the Xbox side, not on the Stadia side. Stadia has a blank check from Google to make the best platform ever, and they somehow messed that up. So, you know, I can't even believe that Stadia is still around. Just cut your losses. Like, I can't imagine working for Stadia right now and just like, when are they going to call me into the office and fire me? Like, oh, what day is it going to be? Every day I'd be walking in that office, be like, today's the day. I don't do anything here. I know there's nothing I do at my job except for sit around because no games come out on my service. So I can't imagine what you do with that job.
Yeah.
Stadia is a thing of the past. Xbox does it better, and they're going to continue to do it better. Sorry, Google, you have failed once again.
I will say, I think what hurt Stadia the most, their tech wasn't all the way there, but like you said, that tech is going to be the future. So the tech not being there, I think a lot of people would have put up with. I think the problem is Google didn't know the game industry, didn't have any games. Like, all of their games that they had, that, they had maybe one or two exclusives, but all the games they had were, like, the previous generation. It's like, you gotta have something this generation. You gotta have something someone is interested in.
Yes.
And again, they didn't know how to make games either, so the games that they did make were not great.
Yeah, no. They announced they tried to have some exclusive deal with I'm gonna get it, Baldur's Gate. That's right. It was not Dark Alliance, but it was just a Baldur's Gate 3 game, and I was actually pretty excited for that game. And they ended up needing a lot more time for development because of all the hype for it. But it was supposed to be a Stadia thing, and then they lost that, and because they lost that, it took away a lot of the spotlight to Baldur's Gate 3, and now I don't even know if that game actually ever came out or not, and that poor Baldur's Gate got tied to a dying side branch company, and unfortunately, who knows what's going to happen with that game. And that was supposed to be an exclusive deal, at least like a year exclusive, and now who knows?
Well, this is going to make us lose even more fans, but Baldur's Gate was kind of dying too, so...
True. Yeah, you're right.
So it's not like it was a thriving franchise that got attached to a dying platform. It was a dying franchise attached to a dying platform. So at least they died together. Alright, well, for the post-show, we'll talk about what we've been playing. But if you liked or didn't like this podcast, make sure to do all of the things, like hitting the subscribe button and hitting the bell on youtube.com/XofPlays. Hey, if you like it, you can also hit the like button, too. Or giving a high rating on whatever podcast service you use so you can find like-minded people. I brought it up before, but on patreon.com/thebriefing-room. You can financially support the show, get cool rewards as well. That's all from us. Take care.
Extra, extra, get your hot takes from Dean and Landon. Thanks for stopping by.